This is the Lord of the universe. He has no hands, no feet, and a body that looks like a primitive wooden toy, defined entirely by two massive, unblinking eyes staring outward. The story of how this figure reached the West begins in 1967, in the center of the San Francisco counterculture. A young woman named Malati was browsing the bargain bins at a cost-plus import shop. Among the Mexican jackets and incense, she found a 3-inch wooden figurine from India. It was brightly painted, blocky, and cost only a few dollars. She brought the doll to her teacher, Swami Prabhupada. He didn't see a cheap souvenir. He immediately dropped to the floor, bowing before the wooden figure in a state of total shock and reverence. To the Swami, this was a specific, ancient form of the divine. Most observers see the figure as an unfinished carving, an accident of history. But within the Vaishnava tradition, these shrunken limbs represent a physiological peak of emotion. There are two ways to explain why he looks like this. The first is a popular legend involving King Indriyamna, who commissioned a master sculptor to carve a deity from a mysterious log found in the ocean. The sculptor, who was a celestial architect in disguise, had one condition: he must be left in absolute privacy for 21 days. If anyone opened the door early, he would stop. For 2 weeks, the king heard the sound of tools from behind the door, but on the 14th day, the workshop went silent. Fearing the sculptor had died, the king and queen forced the doors open 7 days ahead of schedule. The workshop was empty. The sculptor had vanished, leaving behind 3 deities with shrunken torsos and unfinished limbs. This legend satisfies basic curiosity about the physical shape of the wood. It provides a historical reason for the missing hands and feet, but it serves primarily as a public narrative for a much deeper internal reality. Esoteric texts argue this form isn't unfinished at all. They call it super complete, a physical snapshot of the Lord in a state of total rapture. This story takes place in the royal city of Dwarka. Despite his opulence as a king, Krishna spent his nights in sorrow, crying out for his simple childhood in the village of Vrindavan. His queens, desperate to understand his grief, gathered around Mother Rohini to hear stories of his youth. They posted his sister, Subhadra, at the door to ensure Krishna wouldn't overhear the intimate details of his own past. But as Rohini described the devotion of the village residents, Subhadra became so mesmerized she forgot to guard the door. Krishna and his brother Balaram crept up behind her and began to listen. Hearing about that pure, unrefined love triggered a state called Mahabhava, the absolute limit of ecstatic emotion. The intensity caused his eyes to dilate in wonder and his limbs to retract into his body, like a tortoise. The sage Narada Muni happened to witness this specific moment of divine shock. He begged that this form, this record of supreme emotion, be preserved eternally, so the world could see what happens when the Lord is overcome by his own devotees. This understanding changes the act of darshan, or sacred viewing. Instead of a person looking at a wooden block, it is the realization that the Lord's massive eyes are fixed on the viewer in a permanent state of wonder. Every year, this internal state of longing is brought into the streets during the Ratha Yatra festival, where millions gather around 3 massive domed chariots. This journey traces a symbolic line. It starts in Dwarka and pulls the Lord back toward the intimate atmosphere of Vrindavan. The festival is a physical effort to ease that separation, symbolically bringing the Lord back to the people who love him most. The physical strain on these devotees is a modern continuation of the reverence Swami Prabhupada felt in that small apartment. Each person on the rope is working to reunite the Lord with his home. The retracted limbs and wide, unblinking eyes remain as a permanent record of that moment in Dwarka. This form is simply what happens when the heart reaches its absolute limit.